Hello everyone, I'm currently working on a project for my African American class and I'll be introducing you to the color that ruled the world. Have you ever wondered why the sky is blue? How about why your jeans are blue? The high-end money-making crop that made billions of dollars that I'll be discussing is indigo. The indigo dye is an organic compound with a distinctive blue color. Historically, indigo was a natural dye extracted from the leaves of certain plants, and this process was important economically because blue dyes were once rare.
Slaves would pick, process, and make dye blocks used to dye clothes, ink, and other items.
Indigo is among the oldest dyes to be used for textile dyeing and printing. Indigo, used as a dye, made its way to the Greeks and Romans, where it was valued as a luxury product.
The dye was also known to ancient civilization in Mesopotamia, Egypt, Britain, Mesoamerica, Peru, Iran, and Africa. On the African continent, indigo dye cloth have financially empowered many African women where they would share their great skills for arts.
Indigo plays a major factor to the European slave trade because of its power to grow empires. In the 1700s, enslaved Africans were used for their knowledge of indigo cultivation to be used during slavery. It started off from 1740 to 1790. The South Carolina indigo planters discovered a bonanza crop before the Revolution, and then the indigo industry appeared. The large amounts of profits from indigo outpaced those of sugar and cotton.
Indigo was very valuable that the Navigation Act of 1660 included that only indigo and other enumerated goods were allowed to sell within the empire. Later in 1670, Parliament put out a rule for Jamaican planters to only produce sugar and not indigo. I wonder why. The crop was made sure to be grown on land and not suited for rice and tended by slaves. So planters and farmers already committed to plantation agriculture and did not have to reconfigure their land and labor. Although South Carolina could not compete with super dyes produced in the West Indies. Cultivating and processing the plant was complex. The planters found other commodities more reliable and easier to produce. Indigo was reintroduced in the 1740s during King George's War in 1739 to 1748, which disrupted the establishment rice trade by inflating insurance and shipping charges, and also cut off the British supply of indigo from the French West Indies. In 1747, 138,300 pounds of dye worth of 16,803 euros sterling were exported to England. The amount and value of indigo exports increased in subsequent years, peaking in 1775 with a total of 1,122,200 pounds, valued at 242,395 euros sterling. Planting began in the early April, with the first harvest in July and often a second harvest in August or September. After cutting, the plant was carried to the processing site, a work area were generally shaded by a thatched roof. Specialized equipment included 3 graduate vats set next to each other in which the plant would be converted to dye. Slaves were responsible for most of the South Carolina's indigo production. Field slaves planted, weeded, and harvested the crop, and skilled indigo slaves worked to convert the plant to dye. Slaves who understood the art of processing the dye had greater value, as an entire year's product depended on the talents of the indigo maker. Farmers would trade one length of cloth in exchange for one human body. Indigo exports declined sharply in the 1790s. No longer part of the British Empire, South Carolina indigo growers lost their bounty and market as England turned to India to supply indigo demands. Carolina planters soon after turned their attention to cotton, another crop that fit it neatly into the plantation economy. Indigo was produced and used locally throughout the 19th century, but by 1802, it was no longer listed among Carolina's exports. I'm working on a project with my African American history class today, and I'll be talking about the color that ruled the world.